Hello and welcome back to JJ's Woodshop. Today I'm working on an organizing solution. This is a caddy that I plan on making for my shaving stuff and like toothpaste, toothbrush. Stuff that tends to get, knocked on the floor and kind of spread throughout the bathroom. And what this is going to do is it's going to mount on the wall. So I've already taken the liberty to get some of this started, but I'm going to show you some of the materials that I used. Okay, so I started this project, and it's quite simple. As you can see, I've already started gluing some of this up. It's a 1/4 inch thick mahogany, and basically I get the stuff in blocks. It's raw. It's not much you could do with it in the condition that I get it in, but I run it through the table saw and I mill it down into pieces that I can use. Right here I have a good example. You will see that it's very rough milled. That side looks pretty good. This side here, there's a little bit of a line here from the blade, and there's one also right here. So I cut these down about 3/8 thick, and if I want it to be 1/4 inch, so I can get a lot of sanding. Sanding is how you're going to get this thing straightened out. On the big belt sander, if you have a planer, that's always a plus. I just have one of the little hand planers, and I also have an electric hand planer, but it's not just one of those nice ones that you can just feed through the machine and get that nice flat surface. It just takes a little bit more time. But as you can see, it's not quite flat. And that's because of how it's sawed. So that's why I always cut it 1/8 inch thicker, so I got a good 1/16 that I could take off on each side, and sometimes give or take a little bit more, but whatever it takes to get the job done right. So back to this. This is 7.5 long, and these boards right here are 2.5 wide, and obviously when I'm done sanding, by 1/4. What I did was I joined 2 of those together to make this bigger piece. Now I made 2 of these, and you always want the top to be slightly bigger, just in case something's not quite, it's like a 32nd or a 16th off. You can always adjust your top to the size to make it match up perfectly. Now, as I've shown in other videos, you want to square up the ends, which I've already done on this one, and cut it to length, which these will be both cut down to 5 inches even. perfect. Again, square up one end, the end that you're going to keep. And go from there. Now, sometimes these measurements might be a little off because of the way that everything's sanded. I already pre-sanded these before I started this video. So you're going to want to do that before you make your cuts. Now for starting these other pieces that are going in the ends, you're going to want to make sure that you shave one end off to square it up before you cut the other end to fit. And for this particular box, I want this piece to fit somewhat snugly on the inside, like this. I just feel like it'll make the box a lot stronger, and it just looks really good. So let's glue this up. Now, something to remember, you want to cover both sides plus the bottom, wherever the wood is making contact with the other pieces. It's important not to miss any of it, because then you're compromising its strength. So what you want to do is just take your finger, wipe some of that excess glue off. Otherwise you can sand it off later. Alright, so now I got the box built. Obviously it's not perfect because it's rough milled. Okay, no big deals. There's some little gaps and stuff here at the bottom, and later on I'll teach you how to make your own putty with some of the sawdust from your sander so it matches it up when you go to finish it or stain it. Now I looked at this top, and of course I'm going to do some sanding with the palm sander, but this top doesn't exactly line up 100% perfect. Some of these are a little off square. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and glue this up, and this is one of the beauties of sanding, because you can cover up the imperfections and actually still make something that looks like trash right now, but if you sand it properly, it's going to look great later. So we're going to go ahead and glue this up, and I'm going to let it set up overnight, of course. Make sure it's good and solid, because there's going to be a lot of sanding to do when I restart on this project in the morning, and we want that glue to be holding very strongly. Looks like we're going to have some little ridges here and there we're going to have to fill in. Just by touching it up, adding that little bit of extra detail to it can always save a project. Sometimes you might not think that this project is going as well as you had hoped, but it's how you finish it is what really gives it its character and its beauty. And see, that's the thing too, when you're working with real wood, there's something to always remember. No matter what you do, it's always going to have its small imperfections that can't be hidden, because wood is not exactly a man-made thing. It's natural. And have you ever seen the perfect tree? It grows perfectly on a 90-degree angle? No, you never do. No matter what, anything that is man-made that comes from wood is never 100% perfect. Now that the box is put together, and it's not quite perfect, so we're going to sand this in a little while, But I want to show you how I make some of my putty from sawdust to fill in these gaps. It's really quite simple. It just consists of the sawdust that's left over from the sander and your wood glue. Now, I take a small portion, and you can always mix up more as you go, but I add a little bit of wood glue to the sawdust, and it's kind of messy to mix in your hand, but I typically don't care. Wood glue it's not gonna hurt me, but you kind of mix it together, your hand, kind of roll it around a little bit until you start getting a nice little ball of sawdust mixed with that glue. And this works really well for filling in gaps and other small areas that you don't want exposed. Now, you want to wait a good couple of hours after you do this to make sure that the putty you made is hardened up, and make sure that you pack it in these grooves really good. Rub on it a little bit, push it in there, and yeah, it'll leave a little bit of a mess, but when you're done, you're going to be sanding the project smooth anyways to make it perfect, so no one's really even going to notice that you did this. Okay, so now we got this all cleaned up. Was using I believe it's a 260 grit sandpaper to kind of smooth this up a little bit, and later on, before I finish the product, I'm going to use some steel wool to kind of clean up the edges a little bit more and get it down to a smoother finish. But right now I want to see which side I want to keep. Probably this side I want to keep attached, and then this side, actually I want to flip that around. I want this side to keep attached because I have a little bit more filler on this side. The filler is not as strong as a solid board, obviously, so we definitely don't want to weaken the top. Now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to leave about 2 inches here, and because I like to cheat on measurements, take a speed square and make your line. Then what you're going to do, you're going to line this up on the other side so all your lines line up. Now, you're not going to cut this box completely in half. I will tell you that, because it won't work. Now that I've got that established, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut through this top, go straight through, and I'll probably come down on the sides here, maybe 3/8 to a 1/2 inch on these sides, and cut that out all the way around at that measurement so that there's a little bit of a lip left from the sides here. And then I will show you what that looks like, and then how to glue in those fern strips, so when you set this top down, it stays on and it doesn't really roll off.